Good morning, welcome to Headline Focus, here live on Core Politics with me, Rob Double. It is Thursday the 7th of December 2017, so let's have a look at what's making the news today. So to start off with, in the Daily Mail, as you can see, Britons who have fought for so-called Islamic State should not be allowed back home. This is a quote from Gavin Williamson, the Defence Secretary, new Defence Secretary, quoted in the Mail as saying, "A dead terrorist can't cause any harm to Britain." Now, these comments are related to the more than 800 UK citizens who have thought to have gone to fight for Islamic State in either Iraq or Syria. Around half of them have already returned to the UK, however, and there's about 270 still thought to be out in fighting for ISIS or out in Iraq or Syria. Williamson indicating that he's prepared to hunt down and use airstrikes on the remaining 270 UK passport holders rather than allow them to come back to the UK. Very interesting story there, and very strong words from the new Defence Secretary. Next up then, in the Times newspaper, medicine shortage. Now, shortage of medicines is forcing some cancer and severe mental health patients to be turned away from pharmacies. The Times is also saying at least 100 drugs have been affected by supply problems, forcing health officials to approve temporary price hikes of up to 4,000% to boost the dwindling stocks. The NHS is spending more than £50 million a month, overpaying as a result for these medicines. Now, interestingly, pharmacies are still, though, running out for days at a time, and as a result, patients who desperately need their prescriptions and their drugs are having to be turned away. That's in the Times newspaper on their front page. Very interesting. Let's have a look at the main story in focus, though, which is to do again with, of course, Brexit. Now, patience is wearing thin over whether this Brexit deal is going to get done. European Commission President, as you can see in the Daily Telegraph, Jean-Claude Juncker fears Theresa May's government could collapse next week if a deal is not approved regarding the Irish border in particular, but also more generally those three issues: the rights of EU citizens, the divorce bill and the Irish border. And the sufficient progress is therefore achieved, and they can then go on to the second phase of the talks regarding the future arrangement and specifically negotiating this trade deal that the UK really desperately wants, and so does the EU. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of lines about there's 48 hours until the UK has to approve this new relationship and they have to sign off on these three issues. I don't believe that, and I don't think you should either. The EU is as desperate for this arrangement to work as the UK is. If a deal was made next week on Thursday or Wednesday morning, just before the EU Council's leaders meeting, there would be no way the EU would reject it because effectively the homework was handed in late. So this whole idea of they have to supply this arrangement on Friday at the latest, I don't think you should buy that at all. I suspect what might happen is the arrangement, particularly on the Irish border, is resolved sometime next week and just before the EU Leaders Summit, and then it is taken to the EU's Leaders Summit for people to sign off and approve. Look at City AM, though, the business angle. They are losing patience, particularly over the clarity on the Brexit negotiations. Now, it has been said many times, particularly by the City of London, City Corporation, that if businesses don't have a clear understanding of what's going to happen in Brexit before Christmas, they will start enacting their contingency plans. And that possibly means moving capital and moving people and offices out of the UK, in particular the City of London. They'll also withhold investment and employment decisions until they get some clarity on where the UK is headed post-Brexit. One more story then. Now, we're getting the ripple effects of President Trump's decision to recognise Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Israel as a result. So he was announced yesterday, and as you can see, we've got The Guardian here. Anger as Trump declares Jerusalem Israel's capital. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says he opposes any unilateral measures that would jeopardise the prospect of peace for Israelis and Palestinians, with a spokesperson for the Turkish President Erdogan saying the US was plunging the region into the world into a fire with no end in sight. So very strong words, pretty much universally coming from the Middle East and indeed international agencies as well. How this will pan out is going to be fascinating for those who are interested in global politics and in international politics in the months to come. That's pretty much it for today. You're up to date. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter. We've got fantastic interviews which went out yesterday night to do with the Brexit negotiations. They're now available. Go and check those out, particularly with Molly Scott-Cato and Felipe Lambert, who sat on the Brexit meeting on Monday. Very interesting insight there. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your day.